Okay. Cool. Mic check. Mic check. Mic. Okay. Hey guys, name's Curtis. You probably know me by Away Day. I've made this video before, but I want to make it a lot shorter and also give you an idea of more what I would do to a project like yours. Okay, so I want to start out by saying, when you send me stems, or I like to call it tracking out, what you need to do if you're on Ableton, everything else like FL, look it up. FL is pretty easy. I can show you right after this. But Ableton, what you need to do is select the entire arrangement, so Control A if that works for you, and then do the export however you do it. It says here it's like Shift R. I don't know, just go File, Export. Once you get to this little thing, let me zoom in. We all know this, like even I know this from Ableton. You're gonna want to go to Rendered Track and do all individual tracks. That's why I like to call it tracking out, because it just makes sense. You're gonna get the tracks and track them out and give them to me. For example, if you want your stuff mastered, that's kind of why I'm showing this. Other than that, the only thing you gotta make sure is that render length is your entire project. I think that's what Control A helps do, but if you don't want to do Control A, just make sure your entire project is rendered. And for everything else, you're fine. I don't need the analysis file. You can turn that off. I don't need that. Sample rate, you know, just export it the way you normally would. If I have issues, I'll let you know. But this is the way you want to do it. I need to have 20 tracks probably. That's like what you'll give me. You know, you could have 4, but you know what I mean? It'll give you, make sure you put this in a folder. Export this to a folder. It will be like your 6, 8, 10 tracks, probably your master too. Another thing here is, I don't know if it's here, but make sure that your master effects are on and your your effects are on. It should be, that's the way it works, but just send me your delay send me everything, you know what I mean? I'm kind of rambling here, but send me everything, right? So this is how you'll do it if you use Ableton. Send all individual tracks and select the entire thing, okay? Cool. For FL users, just as simple. You're gonna go to File. I hope you can still hear me. I'm gonna double check. Yeah, I'm using push to talk because I'm gonna probably master with my speakers. I don't like to use headphones. Anyways, FL users. You're gonna go here, export, WAV file. This makes it easy. This is kind of what my track outs look like. I want to see something. They're all cones because it's VLC or whatever. But if you give me something, it will be in a folder and it will look like this. Sort of. Everybody's looks different. But you're going to make a folder. New folder. Whatever. Save it in here as whatever. Untitled wave. And you're going to want to go not to pattern, full song. I think it's just doing that because I don't even have a song yet. But you want to do mode, full song, cut remainder, whatever. Just do your normal things. And then go down to here, split mixer tracks. So once again, we're going to track out each single thing. So if you don't have things routed to your mixer in FL Studio, it's not going to work. I want your mixer tracks and then all the effects that are on the mixer, yeah, that will be included. So that's great, you know. You can do here, enable insert effects to turn that off, but please, if you're sending me stuff, send me the way that you processed it. I'm not going to mess with it at all. I'm not going to add reverb. Make sure you got reverb on it. Same with enable master effects. This doesn't matter when you're splitting the mixer tracks because it's going to export a master as well that I'll have, and I'm going to compare it to, right? But for tracking out purposes or stems, you're going to click split mixer tracks. And same thing as before, put it into a folder, you're gonna have 20 fucking files, you know what I mean? So great, cool. So the process for today I want to show you is if you sent me something and you don't want me to mess with it at all, you don't want me to touch the drums, nothing, I'm gonna show you what I do to do that. I'm only gonna master and I guess do some mixing. But this track out has been sent to me by somebody who wants to get into, who's making some jungle. And that's perfect for me. I thought I'd do a little mix and master of it. I'm not going to name them unless they want to be named. If they manage to get doxxed because of the files or something, we'll figure that out, but whatever. They'll tell you if they want to tell you that this is their song. So yeah, let's get started. So what I'm going to do is import, this is my thing, my drive. I think it's in whips. Whips and friends. Okay, cool. Think we might call the song Break You. Sounds cool, but we'll see. You know, I haven't heard the song in a little bit, so I kind of forget what it sounds like. Excuse my thing, dude. My PC is really old. It's new, but the hard drive is like old, so it's kind of been struggling. So I guess it's gonna do this for a second. Sorry about that. It's not deleting the files. It's and then also I'm going to put all these onto my desktop. That way it will probably load a bit. Okay, cool. So this is exactly what it's going to look like. If you haven't gotten the idea yet, pretty much I want your entire song. So let's get started on this one. And I'm not going to speed it up. You're welcome to skip. Pretty much what I'm going to go through here is route everything to the mixer. It kind of takes a second. But you can learn a little bit. During the process, I like to, maybe edit some things. We'll see if I do anything like that. And also for this, because this is all waveforms, technically I don't have to mess with the BPM. It'll be the same, unless I want to make some edits, which, like I said, today I'm going to try to keep the edits to a minimum. I want to copy the master song and just make it louder. That's the idea. Okay, so that's the entire break. So there's a kick and snare, everything's all together. So I'm going to put that on my snare bus. I like to put a whole entire break. And then my project file to the sub. I don't like to do that. Alright. So around -9 is what we're hitting at for that break. So I'll get to mixing in a bit. But we'll do processes to turn things up, add some saturation, and then in the end, it will be a louder product. So, cool. Next up. That's crazy. That's almost like a kick. The problem with this is that the way that my thing is set up is that I separate the kick and the snares, and when I do a break, the process is that I'll keep the break and then low cut the kick out of the break. And then I'm going to add myself a modern kick to it to add some more punch. In this case, we're going to see what we end up doing, but I'm probably not going to touch it, and instead I'm going to have to route this track to maybe one of my other inserts, kind of part of the instrument tracks, just because it has a kick and a snare. I don't want to get it all fuddled. If I put it in the kick one, it's going to start to sidechain things, and we don't need that if the snare's hitting in this little sample, so I'm just babbling. But this is, what's it called? Each project's different, you know? They're all a baby, and we're going to have to raise this baby up and nurture it, okay? Cool. Very sick. I would probably cut out the kick. Just to make this easier, I'd cut out the kick and put it onto its own thing. Not going to do that because we're stressed for time. So we're just going to... I'm going to leave it on the kick. and let it sidechain, even the little break, let it sidechain the base. That might be interesting. And we'll see if we have issues. Okay. Okay, some kind of hit thing. I'll probably just put this in the... I like to track it. And it automatically goes to 24, which is part of the instrument mix. You know, I guess it could be a pad, it could be a string. We'll see. We'll see. Okay, kind of the same thing. Honestly, those can go on the same button. Okay, this next track has nothing in it, so it probably used to be there, but doesn't get used anymore. Now, I like to sort this, but there's a lot of files, so I might... I'm gonna throw that on vocals. It has a little bit of hi-hat in it, but okay, and that's quieter, so I think I'm going to put them in a different vocal layer just in case there was... That goes in my bass 1 and bass 2. Those are kind of more for the mid bass elements. You know, with sub bass gets its own. And if you've stuck around this long, thanks for watching. I'm trying to make this one a bit faster. This process is always a long process, so whatever, you know. Also, this is your wideness and your mono knob. Purple is full mono, so that my kick is full mono, my sub bass is full mono. My mid basses go a little bit mono, as you can see, and then this is something that somebody told me that I have to change every single time on my projects, is that hi-hats, they also stay mono. You don't have to force them to be mono, but just keep them. You don't have to spread hi-hats. You don't need to do that. And probably the same with the cymbal, so we'll see about that. But a big thing I've learned is not to go too wide in your mix. It can quickly mess up things. So try to keep it as mono as possible until you locked it in and you figured out that you could probably add some wideness. Okay? And most things are already wide. That's kind of what I'm saying. Is that you probably don't need to mess with it. It's all about sound selection. Okay? And things like reverb and all that, they add wideness. I'm gonna throw that on the instrument. Nothing on this, I don't think. Same with this. Same with this. And this will happen a lot if you just have, when we select every track, it's gonna give me every track even if it's empty. That's okay, not a big deal. If something gets lost, for example, and I couldn't hear it, just let me know. I can always add that back in. Like this, I don't think there's any reverb. Yeah, this is empty. That's so interesting. Okay, like really know what the intent here is. Sometimes things get put into, what's it called? Like, this could be your base group, you know what I mean? And everything's been sent here. But right now, there's two subs that are going on, and that's going to conflict. I guess to resolve it here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this base into the mid base, because you already have like a sub base. So we're going to get this a little bit out of the low end and just kind of keep it a little bit kind of mid more, and then hopefully we keep some of the low elements so that they can still affect the sub base the way that they were. And, you know, whatever, like I might have to figure out if this was the intent or if I can mess with this, but I'm gonna mix it the way that I got it. So you can see it has the exact same base, but it has a hit on top of it. That makes me think I'm going to go with the intent, which is these hits. And I think this is just, those hits are already there. Yeah, so those are part of the hit. So I'm just going to keep those separate, and I'm going to mix them separately. Probably the same thing here. This is probably their drum bus. So I might ignore this. I'll see if it has any effects on it, but I'm probably going to ignore it and just do my own drum bus and see how it sounds. Okay, so I'm going to keep the drum bus so I can compare to it, but like as you can see, it's got some interesting peaks and loudness and dynamics. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do my own drum bus and try to keep things nice and loud, and we'll see how it compares to the original drum bus. Okay, so this little click glitch, I think, was put into the effects chain, so I'm gonna keep the effects chain and not mess with the little click. You know what I mean? And then I think it's the same for these. So these are more of an effect that got sent to a channel, a track, to then get modified. So I think I'm gonna get rid of these and keep the post-processed. Same with the snap. And I'm not... They sound the same, so I'm going to delete the other one. And I'm not always right, so if I get something wrong, please... So you can kind of see what's happening here, is that this and this got combined into another channel that represents the leads for this person. And that's kind of a similar situation that's going to be happening here, is that these are all my buses on the right. And so these we're going to put like kind of the final effects on, and if, for example, you get pretty good at this and you know that everything is routed to a bus, you can just send me the buses, and I can do that as well. However, like, you won't get as much intricacy as, like, if I could edit everything in here and start messing with individual things. So just keep that in mind. Up to you. But that also makes it so that I'll just delete redundant files and mix like this. However, it's good to have both, because then what I can do, for example, is turn this first one down to match this volume and then boost them together so they're more equal volume. But there might be some artistic intent here, so I'm going to leave it without. Okay. We're going to hold on to this. Here's the hi-hats. So these are the actual hi-hats. This is a rock. So we've kind of been missing these. Okay, I believe that's everything. So now what we'll do is we'll compare the master to everything mixed out and see if I got everything. And thanks for sending this over. Thanks for letting me master this. Thank you for letting me use it on my video. I didn't ask you yet, so if you don't want to disclose your name, no worries. If you know... Fucking sick. Let's not waste any time. So technically I could take this master file, throw it into Maximus, make it a bit louder for you. If you don't want me to do all this, I can do that. Might run into some issues, but it will be louder. This process helps us so that I can kind of tame things and get you a more controlled package. Up to you guys. So let's get to it. So 30 minutes in. Thanks for watching, guys. Appreciate it. Thanks for listening to me rambling. I think now we're in the meat of it. I probably won't edit this to fast forward all that stuff. I don't know. I think it's useful information. But if you've made it this far, we're going to get into the meat of it, the really fun part, where you're going to start mixing. Okay? Cool. So I'm going to turn everything on except for these two, because these are buses that I'm just using as reference. Okay? Okay, cool. First things first, let's mess with the sub bass. I like to design everything around my sub bass. If you have me master your stuff, you can see I'm not using headphones. I have a sub. I got some big ass speakers to my left and right. I like to mix in my garage so I get an idea of how the fuck it's gonna sound in a loud environment. So let's go. Anchor, and then we're gonna build everything around the sub. Okay? Okay, sub gets sent to my sub mix. I'm going to do something I love to do on everything, which is wave shape. Wave shaping is essentially saturation combined with clipping. It's going to make sure my thing doesn't go over 0, but it's going to saturate it up to 0. Whoops, that's the wrong. Okay, this is my good old friend. The idea is to fucking pump it, you know what I mean? And what it does is it boosts the lower volume content while keeping the high volume content at the same level. And I like to do a hardcore boost. This is kind of like, just a slight boost. This will take away dynamics. So we're gonna add, or this will take away saturation, I mean. So I don't know, what the fuck, you don't wanna use that. So we're gonna fucking saturate it, okay? You hear that? Let's fucking drive it. Let's make it loud as fuck. So I think it already sounds better. And we're gonna mix around. Okay, so it hits at perfectly like -4 right now. It's a pretty good sub, so I'm not gonna worry too much about what's it called, making it louder. It's fine the way it is, so we're gonna put the ceiling right there. Oh. So it barely even compresses it, probably none at all. This is just an idea of to keep your bass at the exact same level, so you know that no matter what, it's never ever gonna go over -6. Now if you start adding things after the limiter, it will go over -6, but if you add things before it, it will cut it at 6 and you'll be perfect. Now, the bass is fine. It's not going to do anything too crazy to where it's going to have to be cut. But there's situations where you have a bass that maybe does like a thing where it goes wah, 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 and you weren't expecting that, and it's louder than most elements. This will cut it so that everything will play at exactly the decibel that you want, which right here is like -3 or something. But the idea is pretending that that's almost at 0. You're just finding a thing, and then you're going to bring your mix down so that it plays at -6. That's what I do for jungle. Dubstep and other things might be -3 because you want a louder sub. Jungle has a lot of elements going on in it, so you kind of turn down the bass a little bit more. But and then you can see that's hitting directly. Next up, to kind of mix this a bit to where I know the intent is have it louder and then go quieter, but to me it's too much of a change. So I just kind of separated them. I'm bringing the first one down a little bit, and then I'm bringing the other one up to compensate. You could do the same with compression and stuff, but then things are going to start getting clipped. So it's just this simpler, it's just the bare bones process of literally cutting this, making it a different one, turning it down in the decibels, and turning the other one up in decibels. So they're kind of more of a complete package, and yeah. I think that's better. We kind of range from -3 to about like -5 during the drop, because we're going to want to bring things a bit quieter for the other elements. Okay, I hate to do this to you. I'm gonna add a kick. If you don't like the kick, I'm sorry, but I like doing this. I don't like to use the parametric EQ. I found it being weird and adding like distortion, so I didn't like it. So now I use this, which is the same thing, it's just a 3-band EQ. Probably that sounds good. I'm gonna add a kick. Because it still has that kick feel. what's wrong with me, but I have no idea what BPM this is. the drums, just to get it out there real quick. I'm kind of a perfectionist, unfortunately. Now we have a sounded good, huh? So I like to mix it hot, and then I'm gonna add on my master, and I'm probably gonna have to turn it down. I just like to mix loud. Gets me an idea of how it's gonna. And pretty much I'm done. I like to just focus kick, snare, break, and bass. As long as those are all fucking tight, everything else can just go wherever the fuck in whatever volume. Just slight mixes. As long as bass turning up and down, but it does make things a little bit difficult. And I don't know if it's worth the payoff, because I don't really hear it all that much. And it's like if there. Now what I like to do is turn on the master and see the difference, and I'll probably have to keep mixing. So if you've been playing this as loud as possible, I'd probably turn it down right now. Okay, this is my Maximus. As you can see, the green signal is kind of where we're at, and then this darker green is where it's getting boosted up, okay? And we're boosting everything mostly to on synths and pads. Sometimes they have a lot of low information that isn't going to be I think we're coming up on an hour. That's about as much as I could do in an hour. I thought this would be way shorter, so thanks for sticking around, guys. I'll make a note in Discord that the end is kind of the most important part here. It just shows that I mix and then I kind of bring down my pre-master to about -6-ish. That's where my peaks are. And then I go through a process of, this shows the bands, of a +6 boost to everything. And then my master gets a little bit of pre-boost, and sometimes I'll do the post as well. And that's going to make it so that I have a nice full signal, combined with all the other things I do, which is like wave shaping and stuff, to bring out the fullness of kicks and snares. That's kind of the trick of how you get your things loud. And if you just want me to do this, just send me your stuff. You saw in the beginning how to do it. Put it into a RAR file, WinRAR, or zip it up, and send it my way, however, which way works, you know? And no charge, I don't give a fuck. I'll do it for free. Cool, so let's compare before and after. And this isn't a thing of like, oh, I fixed the song. This is just what you're gonna get of me trying to make things a little bit louder and sounding good on my system. You know what I mean? And usually it's a lot more involved. But yeah, thanks for listening. I appreciate you guys. Just the master file with okay, and now let's see how it sounds. have it. -4 LUFS. Okay? Not bad. Now, I probably would spend more time on this to make it nice and clean, to make sure things don't get cut too much. It's okay cutting things, but if it starts to distort, you can hear it. So I'm looking out for distortion and all that stuff. But, yeah, guys, thanks. If you stuck out this long, let me know what you think. Let me know if you think this is a good process, if you think it works. Let me know if you think it sounds better, or if it sounded better before me doing the mix, you know what I mean? Because if you just send me your master and I try to boost it, there could be issues. But I can work around those. But let me know what you think, if you think it sounded better before or after. Cool. Thanks a bunch, guys. Had a good night tonight. I was in the mood to make another video. I thought it would be like 20 minutes. I'm crazy. But anyways, thanks for watching, guys.